Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another battle to the death for you today. We have the Massdrop Ferrum Forged Gent versus the Kizer Vanguard Dukes. Two very classy, gentlemanly knives, which are both priced very similarly to each other. The Ferrum Forged Gent goes for $79 on Massdrop. The Kizer Vanguard Dukes goes for $69 at your favorite knife retailer everywhere. Let's get into a little bit more about these two. So let's start out with the Massdrop because that requires a bit more explanation. So yes, this is a Ferrum Forged design sold by Massdrop, built by We Knives over in China. How does that go? Well, Massdrop is kind of a consumer site where you sign up and they sell everything in what they call drops. So people sign up, you commit at a certain price. If people buy more, sometimes that price goes down. Not so much with the knives; those usually stay pretty much the same. But they sell all kinds of stuff there. It's not just knives by any means. It's a very minuscule part of their business, but they do a lot of cool collaborations with knife designers. This is one of them. This is one of three that Ferrum Forge does with them. All of them are made by We, and they're all very high quality and some very nice knives. The Crux and the Falcon. And I believe they have another one coming out also. The name escapes me at the moment. But very cool how they market this stuff. The problem with it is, this was the second drop of these. I missed out on the first one, and I didn't get one. And then if there's a high demand, they'll do another one eventually. They did another one eventually. I do believe I ordered this in early March, and I got it on like May 2nd. And that's pretty quick, honestly, for their drop. Some mass production stuff, I bought a cold steel on there. They were already made. It's a mass production knife. That I got pretty quickly. I think I got that within a month. So it's not like ordering on Blade HQ and you're going to have it in a few days. They take a while. But a lot of them are worth it because you were getting an amazing value for this. $79. It's a titanium frame lock. I'm calling this a frame lock. Yes, I know there are liners on the outside, but these liners are just kind of ornamental and to make it more comfortable. As you can see, the pivot screw doesn't even go through here. This knife would function completely fine if you took the liners off. They are not required. I'm sorry, if you took the scales off, not the liners. If you took the scales off, it would still function completely fine. They're just window dressing in to make it more comfortable. So we're going to call this a thin liner lock, or thin frame lock rather than a liner lock. Confusing even myself. But yeah, S35 VN steel, titanium construction, Ferrum Forge, awesome designers, really well designed knife, and for $79. That is the advantage of Massdrop. The disadvantage is it's gonna take a while, and if you miss out on one, it's gonna be a bit. Right now, these are gone. It's probably gonna be a couple months before they do another run. I'm sure they're gonna do another one because these are extremely popular. And in this run, they added some options. It's not available only just in black. Now you can get it in blue. You can get it in a green. Get to that in a minute. Why I'm not sure about that decision, but anywho, it's probably a couple more months before they do another run, and it'll be another couple months before you get it. So you're gonna have to wait a while if you want one of these. But it is almost certainly going to be out again. I can't fathom they wouldn't do another run. Whereas your Kizer Vanguard Dukes is what used to be, the Vanguard line used to be Kizer's budget line. Now they have one below that, kind of. They have this. This is an example I have here. This is a Tangram Progression. Tangram is also a kind of subdivision / side company of Kizer. These are only available like on Amazon at the moment. They're not available at like regular knife retailers anywhere. Where these are like, you know, $30-$40. The Tangrams are really cheap. As I said, this is $69. Very nice knife. You're getting VG10 steel, G10 handles, stainless steel liner lock. Again, very gentlemanly design. I've had this for a long time, actually. I bought it, God, a year ago? Maybe over a year ago. And that's a long time for me to keep a knife because I get to play with everything and I do sell and trade and swap a whole lot. So very few knives stay in my collection for that long. But I've always just really had a little sweet spot for this knife. It is a great little gentleman's folder, especially for the price, and it's classy looking. I think that's about it for that. Let's get into some specs. We will do the Vanguard first since I have it here. So the specs on your Kizer Vanguard Dukes, again, these are all 1/2-inch squares. We'll try and center this up here a bit on the camera. You have an overall length just a hair over 7 inches, 7.12 inches. Blade length of dead on 3 inches. Blade thickness, 0.11 inches. and a handle length of 4.125 inches, handle thickness 0.46, and a weight of 2.7 ounces, so pretty light. That's what it weighed on my scales anyway. And now we will do the specs on your Massdrop Ferrum Forged Gent. You have a blade length, again, of dead on 3 inches. You have an overall length of 6.6 inches, so it's a little shorter than the Vanguard. You have a blade thickness of 0.13 inches and a handle thickness of 0.4 inches. So just a little bit slimmer. Now, how does this work? If you've never watched one of these battles to the death before, first of all, spoiler alert, I'm not going to destroy a knife at the end of this. That's just, I admit, a little bit of clickbait. But, yeah, you do what you got to do. I'm going to score these all in 7 categories. We have aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, carry, deployment, and value. Theoretically in that order, unless I screw up and have to go back and do a category again. So let's get into it. Let's get into the scored categories. Let's start out with aesthetics. I'm just going to call this one a tie because, especially in the black, I don't understand why. I know people asked for the blue. I get why they made it in the blue for this drop. But the green and stuff too, like it's a gent. It's in the name. It's a gentleman's knife. It's called the Gent. I don't know too many people in suits and slacks that want a blue knife. But okay, people asked for it. Whatever. And the green one, I guess they just added because they could. But in this black, there is nothing exciting about this design at all. But it looks very classy and just sleek and unintimidating. And I really do like that about it because I'm a boring person. Some of my quote-unquote friends who are YouTubers have started to call boring-looking knives the Brian spec. So thanks for that, guys. But, yeah, no, I do usually. If I can order a knife in a boring color, I order it in the boring color. I don't get it in something flashy. I'm just that way, I guess. I like my knives just to look kind of monochrome and not stick out. But I do like the look of the Dukes because while it is still in my monochrome spec, it only comes in this color. But it's classy, but also it's just a bit flashy, and I'm fine with that. Like all this nicely contoured G10 looks really, really cool, and it's really well done. It's all very smooth. The blade's very shiny. I don't like the look of the pocket clip that much, but I get why if you want a gentleman's knife that just has a bit of flash to it, a bit of interest, this is still really good. So I'm just going to call them a tie because I don't really know which one I really like the looks of that much better. And it's a very subjective category anyway. Now, quality. Both of these are very well built. I don't have a problem with any of them. Both of them have excellent blade centering. The lockup's very good on them. All the screws are very good quality. All those kind of things. But the advantage with Massdrop is they are able to offer stuff at very cheap prices. And fair or not, you're looking at titanium and S35 VN versus, G10 and stainless liner lock. The quality of the materials are just that much better on the Gent that I have to give the win to that. Now, everything else, even both of them have nice little kind of contouring on the top of the blade. The Gent maybe has just a bit more, but other than the materials used, they're pretty equal. But the materials used on the Gent are just so much better that I have to give the quality to that. Because you hold this in your hand, it doesn't feel $10 more expensive than this. It feels $50 more expensive than this. It's just the way it is. All right, now blade. This one was an interesting one. So you have VG10, which, 3-4 years ago was a super steel. S35 VN, which a year ago was a super steel, is kind of arguably still in the conversation to be a super steel. VG10 kind of is not in vogue right now, and I'm not a huge fan of it either, but I will say Kizer's VG10 is pretty darn good. Their heat treat's very good, and I've never really had a problem with it, but you are going to have to sharpen it a lot more than you have to sharpen S35 VN. As far as blade shape, this is a nice hollow grind. It's very thin behind the edge. It was, let me look at my notes here if I can find that part, because I can't read my own handwriting. Yeah, this was 13 thousandths behind the edge. It's extremely thin behind the edge. It's very slicey. The blade shape is good. It does have a tick of a recurve to it, which is a bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. You sharpen that thing, you know, really good 3 or 4 times and it's going to be gone. This is and it's also a very thin blade stock. This is a thicker blade stock. It is a flat grind. Still thin behind the edge. Not as thin as this, but it's, I got 17 thousandths behind the edge. So still very thin behind the edge. And it's a taller flat grind. As far as just sliciness, yes, this is just a tiny bit better, but it's VG10 versus S35 VN. I can't give a win or even a tie when it's VG10 versus S35 VN. You just can't. I have to give the blade to the Gent. Also, I do like the blade shape a little bit better on this. There's no recurve. The tip is just a bit more robust. Neither of these are super robust, but this is a pretty good EDC knife. It's not just a Gent's knife. It actually is a pretty good small EDC knife. And so is this, I guess. But yeah, VG10 versus S35. All day long, I'm going to take the S35 VN. Now, ergonomics. This one was a surprise to me because I love forward finger choils, and this one has one. The Gent does have a forward finger choil, a pretty functional one for my skinny little fingers, anywho. And it feels really good when I'm choked up like this. It feels pretty good. There's a little bit of hot spot from the clip, but I also have the same thing on the Dukes. But when I put the Dukes in my hand, even though it doesn't have that forward choil, my hand still fits completely on it, and it just feels like more like a knife in my hand. Where this doesn't feel like a toy or anything, but this just fills my hand a bit better and just feels more like a knife. None of them have any jimping up here or anything like that. There's none of that. And when I have to choke back, when I'm not using that forward finger choil, my hand does not fully fit. Like I feel like I almost have to use the forward finger choil. Where this, I kind of wish it had one. There's a nice sharpening choil there. I guess you can if you're really careful and pulling your finger back, but I wouldn't do it. Yeah, but ergonomics, I don't know. This just feels more like a knife. Ergonomics, I have to give a very narrow win to the Dukes, and I can't exactly explain why. I know that was kind of rambly, but it's kind of how I feel about it. I'm not sure why. I guess it's just the handle's a little bit longer and a little bit thicker. Just feels a little bit better in my hand. Now, carry-wise, this was not close. Carry-wise is definitely to the Gent. Not only is it narrower, not only does it have a deep carry pocket clip, which I love the pocket clip on this. Some people have complained about it, but I really like it. I know it's very thin and it's very small, but that's all this knife needs. And it deep carries so well, and it's so thin that like nobody's going to think that's a knife in your pocket. No one is going to think that's a knife. They're going to think it's like a pen or something. Nobody's going to think it's a knife. And I think that's a very important thing about a kind of gentlemanly office knife. But another thing against, and I'm banging on the Dukes like it's a bad knife to carry. It isn't. But I mean, you got a lot of knives sticking out, especially for something in kind of this sort of category. You got a lot of flipper tabs sticking out and some jimping on the end, which is pretty smooth. It's not that bad. But this, you just have this tiny little flipper. It's not going to bother you in any way. Nice little deep carry pocket clip. Definitely the Gent. And it slides in and out of the pocket so well. So does this, I guess. But I'm not saying the Dukes is a horrible knife to carry. It isn't. But in comparison to the Gent, yeah, it's a behemoth in your pocket compared to the Gent. I really love the way this knife carries. They obviously put a whole lot of thought into that. Now, deployment. Both of these, very good. Running on ball bearings. Both of them have great detents. I have no complaints about the deployment on either of them. But the Dukes is just, that's what makes me love the Dukes and why I still have it, I think, is it's just so snappy. It's just one of the snappiest little knives I've ever had. Light switch, push button, any way you do it, it works great. Now the Gent, still really good. And the Gent does make a very satisfying noise. I always talk about that, but I love that titanium frame lock snap noise. The click. I like the click. The click on this is much better. But this is just so snappy, and it looks classy. You can carry it around, but you can also fiddle with it when no one's looking. You know, that's what I like about it. This was one of my first really fidgety knives that I had that I would just flip and play with all the time. Because it's just great that way. So I got to give even though both are great, I have to give a pretty solid win to the Dukes for deployment. I just love that snappiness. They just nailed the D10 on this thing so perfectly, and the bearings are good. It's just great. Now, that leads us to our final category, value. Now, let me just say this. Okay, we're just start. Okay, packaging on the Dukes. I've already said this has better materials. In the packaging on the Dukes, you get this plastic kind of blistery pack thing. You do get a little cloth in there and stuff. That's nice. But on the Gent, you get this nice box. It looks really cool. Massdrop.com. Gent, very nice, modern, fancy pants font. And you get this whole thing. You get a nice little carry case. You get this little Ferrum Forge design hanky, the Rolls-Royce floor mat carpet, which is blue for some reason, but you get lots of great stuff with it, better materials, all that. I'm still going to call it a tie because you can just buy one of these. I think they are out of stock lots of places now, but that's just a cyclical thing. They'll be back in stock. It's not a big deal. Kizer is still making it. Where the Massdrop Gent, who knows when the hell you're gonna be able to get another one. And when you buy a Kizer, your Vanguard, you're buying it from Knife Center, Blade HQ, GP Knives, someplace like that. You know who to go to get stuff taken care of. Massdrop, and they're knife people. Massdrop, you're dealing with Massdrop, who sells knives and belts and toasters and pens and ladies' underpants. They sell all kinds of stuff. They're not knife people. You're not going to be dealing with Ferrum Forge. Ferrum Forge designed this. They send it to Massdrop. And if it breaks, you're dealing with Massdrop. Now, I've heard mostly good things about Massdrop returns. I have not heard a whole lot of problems, but the problem is sometimes I've heard a couple people say they returned a knife and Massdrop just said, we don't have it anymore. Here's a refund. And I have heard a couple horror stories, though, where people just got the wrong person on the phone who wasn't a knife guy, or by email or whatever, however they contacted them, and they didn't understand why what they thought was an issue, the person on the other end of the line didn't think was an issue. So you got to deal with that. So even though this is by all measurable means at $10 more, a much better value than the Dukes, I just have to still call the value category a tie, because it's a Massdrop product. It's not something you're buying from a quote-unquote actual knife dealer. Massdrop's they're doing a whole lot of knives. They're getting better and better and better. Give me 6 months, I may not feel that way. But it's still the waiting period. It's still going to take a long time. I mean, I bought a production cold steel from them, and it took me a month to get. You know, and it was a produced knife they had in their hands, and it still took a month to get it. So there's that. So still going to call it a tie. So what is our final score? Our final score is 3 category wins for the Massdrop Ferrum Forge Gent, 2 for the Kizer Vanguard Dukes, and 2 ties. So a win, definitely, for the Massdrop Ferrum Forge Gent. However, if you're in a hurry and you don't want to deal waiting for them and you want a knife like this and you buy the Vanguard Dukes, you are not going to be disappointed. It's a cool knife. Like I said, I've had this thing for like over a year, which is an eternity for me. It's a really cool knife. No shame in finishing second to this thing. It's got some unfair advantages going through Massdrop and all that. Massdrop is able to offer stuff at ridiculous prices with these collaborations. Some of their stuff isn't that cheap, but with these collaborations, they're able to do some amazing things. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you guys have found it informative. I'm going to go play with my Gent now. That is the most sexually suggestive thing I've ever said on this channel, I do believe. But hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.